Welcome everybody. For the first time in quite a few years, I am back to competitive chess. I am participating to the Bucharest Grand Prix, which is a rapid event and it's not like your average kind of tournament. Indeed, it has been announced to be the strongest tournament that was ever held in Romania. There are 450 participants. Yours truly here is like number 50, and I'm gonna be battling world class oppositions like former world champion Ruslan Ponomariov or nowadays superstars like Bogdan Deac or Alexei Sarana. So in today's video, I'm gonna be taking you onto a journey, show you how the first day went. In the first 3 rounds, I played against opponents with an average rating of roughly 2000. And then in the last game of the day, and also of the video, I did play against the Grandmaster with a rating close to 2600. So I gotta be honest, he was one of the hardest guys that I have ever seen. Take that as you want. So for the first round, I got paired with the black pieces against the 1700 rated opponent. These games should normally be like a walk in the park, just to warm up for the event, avoid blunders, and normally they win themselves. But as soon as the arbiter said to start the clocks, I started feeling that nervousness again. Almost like blood starts rushing through your veins. I felt like super cold to the point that I got such a severe back pain. Right now, it's pretty much been 8 hours since that happened. My back still hurts like shit simply because of that tension over the board. I mean, there's just something that has to do with chess simply. Anyways, he goes e4. We go into Panov, into the Caro-Kann. I play knight f6, develop both knights, and after h3, I decided to take and simply give him an isolated pawn. I don't really want to keep the game super theoretical. I just want to get a simple structure where I'm going to have very easy development. I am getting castled. I like to solve the problem of the bad bishop by using the fianchetto. And the first kind of critical moment of the game is here. Bishop to b3, I think, was a mistake. Simply because it allows this very nice idea, knight a5. Not only chasing the bishop, but also threatening to take on f3, which would hurt white even more. Okay, you cannot allow us to take on f3, giving white such a weak pawn structure. With the king on g1, it just feels like you have to sleep with the door open to your apartment. Well, not living in the most friendly neighborhood, to say the least. So he had to deal with that. He played knight e5, but that allowed me to win the bishop pair. I had to defend this pawn. So a6, queen e2, e5 expanding, and he played knight e3, trying to go knight c5. And here I tend to like spend around 5 minutes because it is a critical moment, and I am trying to take my time since everything was played almost instantaneously. I went b4. Essentially, I immediately spotted this idea. But it was such a weird position that my queen enters b3, almost like entering the jungle, and not super sure if it will return. Anyways, he went knight f4 and I took. Play knight c5. I eliminated that annoying knight immediately, and here I think I played a very clean move. I went for e5. Getting rid of basically his most active piece. He went knight d3, attacking this pawn. I defend by pinning the knight to the queen, attack my queen, retreat, but keep the pin, and after queen to d2. This indeed was the losing mistake. So you pause the video and try to find the winning move. And you're gonna have even more advantage than me because you don't have back pin right now. Or at least hopefully. So I went rook d8. Simple move. I'm saying you cannot take on b4 because I can take on d3 and I can take here intermediate with check, and I'm gonna have extra piece in the endgame. So my opponent tried to play the move f3, but after a simple e4, threatening to take with the bishop and win the knight, they tried c6. Not really sure why, but I did took it, and we managed to bag in the first game. Maybe all that nervousness doesn't feel that bad at the end of the day. And what is even more revealing is that we are gonna have the white pieces. So you all know that it is gonna be Jobava London time. So we are facing 1900 opponent Radulescu Andrei. I will attach a picture that I took with him on the screen, and this may honestly be the best 1900 that I have ever faced. I'm not exaggerating because he genuinely knew like the first 20 moves against my Jobava. He played knight f6, he played c5 mainline, everything Fiori, he has to stop knight b5. I developed bishop d3, playing against his light square bishop, taking away this square because we have pawn storm. Knight e2, defending the pawn, and after bishop g4, we start storming. Okay, all good, just a walk in the park. So far, I had hundreds of these already. But the interesting part is that in this position, most people tend to kind of try and keep white's kingside aggression together by playing h6. And he didn't. Radulescu Andrei was giving 0 Fs in this position, simply going bishop d6, castle, and queen c7. Okay, that's attacking my bishop. I have to take. And then I vividly remembered from my analysis that whenever they don't play h6, you can punish by going g5, g6 yourself, which is a common theme in a lot of positions. But it turns out not in this one. Turns out this one is better to just play g5 and after knight d7, f4, play for a tiny edge. Because after what I did, my opponent had perfect reaction. I was thinking he's gonna take like this and I'm gonna get some attack, but he took the opposite way and locked the position. Move 18. My opponent's playing everything instantly. I'm not better. What the hell is going on? I tried queen e3, preparing knight f4, targeting this weak pawn. He defended, and I played the move knight to d3, trying to play positional, f4, fixing the backward pawn. He went rook f8 and then rook f6. I'm defending my g6 pawn because if he takes, there's going to be a fork. So he went back, threatening to take and then pick up the pawn. So I defended. And now he took. I fought here for a little bit, but the decision was kind of made by elimination. Not really thinking that DE is going to be anything special. Simply because assessing the fact that if I keep it symmetrical, taking towards the center, I don't really have any ways to really create anything here. So I took with the D pawn, he went rook f5, and now I start maneuvering. Plays king b8, simple improving move, and at this point, I believe I spent the biggest amount of time, and it was the move that I was the most proudest of in this game, which is rook g3. Turns out to be a horrific blunder. You pause the video and try to find why. Move 26. I think black has probably like 95 accuracy, and he has a winning move. 1900, by the way. He missed it. Okay, he missed it. Okay, he can relax now. He missed it. He played rook c8. But having he played knight e5. Not sure I would have been filming this recap right now, because after pawn takes, rook takes, I saw this idea. I thought I can just play queen e3, but then I forgot there is rook e2. And if I take, the rook is going to be hanging and black is going to be up to pawn. So, huge chance missed here by my opponent. He played rook c8, the game goes on kind of normally, queen c5, preparing this rook lift. You see, this was kind of like the whole idea of the rook lift, to activate that piece. Now the queen had to go back, because he just attacked it. Rook back, rook c3. Yet again, I'm not trying to win with the rook there. I'm just getting it from like a very passive position on g1, where it's just defending the pawn that doesn't really need any defense. So I wanted to have it help us on the queen side. The game goes on, queen d7 and now b3. Probably the move I'm the proudest about, just playing simple chess, improving the position. He went knight d7. I took on c8 so that I can play knight d4 on the next move without him taking and then getting tempos. Like if you start knight d4 immediately, for instance, he could have traded and then brought the other rook. So I was like, no thank you. Let me play knight d4 this way. And this was like a huge moment in the game because it just looks like he can take the pawn on g6. But that was a mistake. But of course, Radulescu Andrei, he's such a solid player. He's not gonna give me an easy time. He's not gonna give me such chances. Now, to be entirely honest with you, I didn't really fully calculate this. It was just more of like an intuitive sack. I knew that I can push and then activate with e6, and this is the position where I stopped in my brain, kind of telling myself there should be something good, and apparently I was right. You can pause the video and find the knockout blow for white. There are many tempting moves, but the clinical finish is knight c6. Okay, 4, rook c6, rook g7 wins the queen. Now, of course, him being such a solid player, he played knight c6. He was not going to give me an easy time, and at this situation, the time is around, I have 3 minutes, he only has 30 seconds. I'm starting to overthink, I'm getting a little bit panicked, I'm not gonna beat this man, he's playing so solid. What am I gonna do? So, I pull the trigger, trying my last bullet. I go f5. The point with f5 is that it is sort of forcing an endgame where we're gonna be slightly better, but it is gonna be a bit drawish. Okay, he is threatening mate in 1, I defend. He takes, I take on d5, and we get this rook endgame. Now he tries to bring his king closer to the center with the idea that if I check, he wants to block. I push, and basically I saw all of these in advance. It is just a matter of trying to bamboozle him somehow. I have 3 minutes. He still has like 20 seconds. He gets 5 seconds every move. In a normal world, we're gonna trade these pawns and we're gonna have the 3 against 2 majority. And hope that he makes some silly mistake due to the time pressure. However, something shocking happened in the next few moves. He played h5 and went rook g8, which is honestly the trickiest idea. The point is, if black does nothing, you go g7, rook g6, and then you check. After the king moves, you're in time to promote, so you're good. And in order to defend this endgames, it is very important that your king stays on b7. b7 not c7, super important concept, okay? For any rookies, this is one of the only endgames you need to know. Because if you go king c7, then g7 wins. If you try to block the pawn, you think, oh, he goes there, I take. Well, you're letting your opponent play this cunning idea. Threatening to promote, so you have to take, but then you get forked. So white wins. Now, my opponent was, of course, aware of that, but he decided to defend in another sort of logical way by playing king b5. The point is that if g7, he just goes rook g6, and okay, whenever I move the rook, he takes, and the king is... I'm basically never gonna check him and then promote. That's like the winning mechanism. However, it turns out that the king on b5 is not as safe as it may look at first glance. Because I played a4. And there is no way back. If king c6, I can play g7, threatening to check, and if now you're trying b7, I can sacrifice the rook and promote. So, he tried to stick to the concept and hide with the pawns. But after king b2, h4, he tries to get counterplay. King to a3. Oh, sorry, not now. g7, and then king to a3. Gets black in one of the most hilarious mating nets that I have ever seen. Simply threatening b4. Now, if you play b5 trying to escape that, there's gonna be check and there's gonna be check followed by promoting. He tried to pin me, but after the simple rook h8, we managed to just steal a win because we're threatening to promote, and that would be a funny checkmate. So, my opponent has played way better than his rating, but somehow we managed to trick him. But in the following round, I'm gonna be facing a 13-year-old kid who's rated around roughly 2000 that has just beaten an IM. So, getting the black pieces, paintings are getting harder and harder. Let's see what was up with that. So round number 3, I'm playing with the black pieces against Gales Randi, who has just defeated international master Julian Sofronie. He starts the game with d4. And okay, yet again I'm gonna stick true to my weapons, playing the King's Indian. He goes full main line, and not only that he goes full main line, but he plays what is considered to be the most dangerous setup that white could play against the King's Indian. Namely h3, followed by bishop e3. The idea with this setup is that white is gonna try to squeeze on both sides on the board by playing super aggressively with moves such as g4 in this position. The point is, okay, not necessarily trying to play for mate as white, but kind of a prophylactic idea, considering that in the King's Indian, your main way to generate counterplay is to push f5. So you really want to think twice before you do that. After gf, he could get a rook on the open file, and so on. This is pretty complicated. Now, the bad news for my opponent is that I have reviewed this quite recently in pretty decent depth. I played knight a6, he went knight e2, and after knight c5, targeting the pawn, he went for knight g3 defending. And this is an important moment in the game, because I played c6, which is just preparing to go for normal stuff, like taking on d5, playing a4, queen a5, bishop d7, b5, with this kind of typical ideas. But for some reason, he played a move that is somehow very common for the structure, and he played f3. Allowing me to showcase one of the trickiest ideas that you can think about in the King's Indian, because I played the somewhat counterintuitive move. Okay, you can try to pause the video and find it, but I played the move pawn to h5. How on earth can you start randomly pushing pawns when your king is castled and white can take? Well, it turns out that after pawn takes, you can take with a knight, and the punchline is that you don't have to take with a pawn, but because there is this intermediate check, you're gonna be able to take with a queen, thus keeping a healthy pawn structure. Follow it up with something like f5, and black has very interesting play. So my opponent, of course, he's no beginner. He's a very talented kid. He knew that, and he played the move bishop to g5. Now, in my trickiness and only move of theory that I could recall, I played h4, which is an idea that I have borrowed from Daniel Naroditsky. I've noticed he has used this many times, and is actually one of the most shocking things that I have ever seen. Because if white takes, you can try to say 10 guesses. You're probably not gonna find the best move for black in this position. This is just how shocked I was when I first found out about it. Because the point is to play bishop h6. Well, threatening to activate the bishop, threatening to also trap this guy in some lines, and the point is g5 looks like a fork, but no, it's not, because g5 is in fact losing for white. After knight h7, attacking this pawn, pinning, threatening to take, rook g1, knight goes in, f5. White is simply in ruins right now without the dark square bishop, and black is having a winning attack. So here my opponent spent a lot of time after h4. I was quite shocked. Like, because he plays this variation, I assume that he's probably gonna take. He played knight back. I instantly played a4 because it's genuinely no other move in the position. I just want to get my queen onto a5. And he played queen d2. Yet again, what to do? I'm gonna play queen a5. I'm just a guy trying to play the King's Indian, and queen a5 is really the only logical thing. And this is probably the most shocking moment of the whole tournament. I genuinely had a jump scare when I saw what he played unintentionally. You can try to think, pause, and try to find the worst move on the board. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Take this as an exercise, but I swear this happened. I just felt like so bad for the kid because he's gonna have like so much trauma because of this. But he played the move knight d1. Knight d1. He's offering a queen trade, but he forgets about the fact that the queen is pinned. And after I caught my breath again, I did play the move knight d3, which is a checkmate. Whew. That one I didn't really expect. I really didn't even know how to react to it. I'm usually the kind of guy that has a poker face the whole game, but I realized knight d1, I just was like, ooh. I immediately felt super bad for him. So, yeah, somehow we made it. 3 out of 3. Who would have thought? And more so, in the last round of the day, we got paired against Grandmaster Sabin Brunello. Now it is round 4. We're both on 3 out of 3, and I gotta say Sabin Brunello is one of the best players that I have faced over the board. At his peak, he was around number 150 in the world, and yeah, I don't really know what to expect. I just know I got the white pieces, and I'm gonna try my goofy Jobava London. Let's see what the GMs have against it. So I played d4, d5. Pardon me, he played knight f6. Also, he was kind enough to take a picture with me. He was probably thinking, oh, I'm just going to take a picture with this patzer. He's looking kind of friendly, but not so friendly after the Jobava London is on the board. And I got to be honest. You remember that 1900 that I have played? He probably had a way better opening than him for some reason, because my opponent played g6, and after going e3, bishop g7, this is kind of the first moment I was thinking. Because the automatic move is to play h4. That is the theory. That is going to be the main recommendation in my upcoming Jobava course. But recently, I have also kind of played around with the positional approach, which is to go knight b5 here, knight a6, and then knight f3. Leading to more like mentally sane positions. I fought for a little bit and I was like, okay, I know h4 the best. I'm going to play the lines that I know best. So I went h4. He castled. And after h5, I was thinking, okay, I mean, first of all, black has many options. Like they could block. Blocking is usually standard, but castling is also playable. Because after h5, he has an idea to play c5. And once you take on g6, you can take both with h-pawn or with the f-pawn, leading to quite tricky middle games. This line is not clear at all. It's quite complicated. So I had some idea just because I've been coaching Andrea Botes recently in her Over the Board, and she actually faced both. So naturally, I did some reviewing of this. And I was like, okay, let's see what Sabino has. But no, he shocked me. I really couldn't believe my eyes that he played the move knight takes on h5. Simply because this is known to be completely lost for black. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this. After e6, bishop d3, f5, I do believe this is around like +3 for white. So I'm like super confused. I'm playing one of the best chess players to ever live on this planet. And he goes for this. Okay, I mean, now I feel the pressure that I really have to win this game, knowing how winning the position is. But soon after, I started realizing that things were a little bit more tricky than what the computer was thinking. Specifically after knight f3, knight d7, long castle, knight f6. It was not very easy to find a spot for the queen. I played queen h2, simply trying to put some pressure on dark squares. For some reason, computer thinks queen h3 was slightly better. Anyhow, he did follow it up with c5. And okay, at this point, I didn't really spend a lot of time, but it was kind of first critical moment. Do we take or not? I was thinking to take, maybe he probably plays queen a5, some knight e4 ideas, wasn't like super clear to me. I just decided to go for the risk-free approach and play knight e5. And I couldn't really understand what was going on for like a little bit of this. He played c4, bishop e2, b5, right? I mean, he's kind of passive. He's not gonna just wait for me to play rook h1, f3, g4, g5 and just win. So naturally, he'll try to sacrifice something. Okay, of course, I took the pawn. I don't really have to take the pawn, which is the interesting part, but I felt like there is no attack coming. There is no attack coming. Remember that? He played queen b6. I went back. He went bishop a6, and I was like, what's this bishop ever doing on a6? It's just staring into the pawn. Wasn't it better for black to try something like bishop d7, bishop e8 and defend? I'm super puzzled. I don't understand what this man is cooking. He went there. I played rook h1, which I think it was the most natural move on the chessboard. Trying to simply, checkmate the grandmaster. He went rook b8. It's quite funny that in this position, white has an interesting idea to play knight d1 and defend. But I feel like so secure playing f3, queen b2, king d2 that I did not even consider. That did not even cross my mind. But it was in this position where I really had to deal with the first shocker. So far, I just felt like, okay, I don't really understand what he's playing for. I am just going to go g4, g5 and try to mate. So, yeah, that just looks horrific for black. But all of a sudden, he started sacrificing all of his pieces. And apparently, it was kind of working. He played rook b3. I was like, hold your horses, Sabino. What is this move trying to do? He is attacking the knight, but I can take the rook. But after I take the rook, he takes on the pawn. I take the bishop. He's basically giving up a rook and a piece. For what? Okay. He has queen c2. At least winning back the knight, and then he's going to have interesting play with the passed pawn. So I'm only up a piece, and he's got a dangerous pawn. So the situation remains quite tricky. It turns out it would have been even better for him to play rook fc8 first with the same idea to meet g4 with rook b3. And I think this would have actually given him a pretty decent advantage because I don't believe in my capacity of defending this position. Computer thinks white is still better, but yeah. Rook b3. This happened in the game. I took on a6 after spending quite a bit of time. I tried to make sure everything is fine. I'm not getting, embarrassingly checkmated. He took on c2. King e1 and he took the knight. I also panicked a little bit about b2 because I forgot the knight moved backwards and I was just wondering whether this guy is just gonna remove his pawn and mate me, but I surely realized bishop d3, queen c3, and then I just hide somewhere on a pretty island, not the Epstein Island though. I'm gonna go king f2 and his pawn cannot really promote, so I think we should be okay. He didn't play it, he took on c3 and then check me. King g3. Important move. I was considering bishop e2, but then I realized that after something like b2, I have to defend, and it just gave me the feeling that now this pawn can start running. So I felt like I'm just gonna go king g3, keeping this bishop cutting his rook and also stopping this pawn. He went b2. Bishop d3, covering the pawn from promoting. b1, just like take on the x-ray. Queen e2. And this was the critical moment. I think I'm sitting around like 3 minutes maybe. Yes, similar. And I have to start playing precise. The position is very messy. I played the move bishop g5, overlooking his response. Trying to go bishop f6, and then I just felt like I'm gonna get some attack. Should be very good. I overlooked that he can play h5. And he did. Computer likes e4, which I barely considered, but I didn't go very deep, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing that, since after queen c3, taking on f5, queen d4, taking on e6, not only that you got a pawn that's close to promotion, the bishop's also trying to checkmate the enemy king. So I believe this would have been a pretty easy win, but I did start messing things up right now. I played bishop g5. Opponent played h5 defending. Queen to g1. Already you can see from the eval bar, the game starts to really complicate. My opponent played rook c8, which was a bit of an inaccuracy. Apparently knight h7 followed by bishop takes d5 would have won back the piece and black would have been better, but we're both getting very low on time, so he plays rook c8. Now I go queen e1. I saw this move in advance and I was quite happy with it because I'm able to trade queens even though I am losing the piece. King h4. Okay, king is about to start fishing with the bare hands. Maybe taking the pawn. I was just kind of anticipating some sort of endgames like it happened in the game, that I can simply go rook e2, and if he promotes, which didn't happen, I could take and play rook c2. And I got ideas to infiltrate, and then my king can be very active. And for that reason, he played the move knight h7. Now, at this point, I played f4 with only like 2 seconds remaining on the clock. Remember, I am getting 5 seconds increment. And things started to get really crazy. Basically, at this point, we were just playing by intuition without really calculating. He went for rook h1 check, king g3, took on g5, and I played the move rook takes on b2. I didn't simply recap thinking that he's gonna take on e5, then promote, and I wasn't super sure how this rook endgame will play out. I kind of had the feeling that it should still be a draw, considering that my king can get active, but objectively it felt like, okay, I'm just gonna take his pawn. He played h4, king f2, knight h3 after takes. He really started cooking all of a sudden. I couldn't really predict these moves because the lack of time, and the point is that if I take, he wants to win my rook. So I play king e2. And here I won the lottery. Because Sabino made a really grave mistake. He played the move rook g1 when he had like so many other opportunities, like rook h2. He could have even tried perpetual check. But he played the move rook g1. Thinking that I cannot take the knight because there will be check and he wins the rook. But because of the time pressure, he has also forgotten about the idea that I can check first and then collect the knight with a winning endgame. Now, I gotta be honest, with only like 10 seconds on the clock, this wasn't really as easy as it should have been, but he did resign in a position where I would have probably kept playing. He did resign shortly after rook h2. I wasn't super sure like how to convert with 10 seconds, but hey, he resigned. I'm gonna take it. We are currently on 100%, 4 out of 4. Tomorrow in the morning round, we are playing against Grandmaster Adam Kozak. So stay tuned for tomorrow's recap. 6 more rounds to go. I'll post a link in the description where you can follow the games and events. So thank you everybody for making it this far into this video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.